Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rusty Beauties restorations in the Rusty Beauties garage. And today we're gonna be working on this TR6 again, on which in the last episode we did some measurements to determine whether we have toe in or toe out. The way I did it was not exactly as per the manual, but I used the same exact idea, which wasn't very clear in my video, and I needed to come up with a follow-up video so I can explain what I was doing there, because many people criticized me for not drawing a center line, which I actually did, but in a different way than what the manual says, and people got confused. So anyways, I hope that is clarified now. If you haven't seen the video or the follow-up video, you can find links in the description. So in this video, after now we determined the toe is correct on the rear wheels, we're gonna change the brackets of the trailing arm of this wheel, because I changed the ones on this wheel. It still has camber, but now we have adjustable brackets, so we're gonna adjust them later. And I filmed that, but when I started editing the video, I realized that I was using wrong terminology, because I keep mixing that up. I keep calling this camber positive and this camber negative, which is exactly the opposite. What we have right now is negative camber, and if the wheel is stacked under the car, then we have a positive camber. And I used it so many times wrongly that I just decided that I wouldn't post it, because I didn't want to confuse anyone. So today we're gonna change the brackets on this side. We're gonna install the Richard Good adjustable brackets so we can adjust the camber. So let me move a little bit the car, because it's pretty busy in my garage today. So let me move a little bit the car, maybe I will see how, and then we're gonna get crack-a-lacking. Okay, I didn't move the car, I moved my toolbox, so I opened a little bit more space here. I hope this pole is not in my way, but if it is, I have a cutting wheel, so it's fine. Just kidding, I don't want the ceiling to drop on my head. Anyways, I lifted the car, I have jack stand there and here. I also kept the jack under there just in case. It's not holding the car, but it is just in the right place if something happens to fall on the jack, not on me. So yeah, let's take out the wheel and we will talk a little bit more about the brackets. All right, so this is our trailing arm right here. And for those of you who are not familiar with TR6 suspension, and as a matter of fact that's the same suspension as 250 and the late TR4s, the independent rear suspension ones. So we have the trailing arm, which is attached with two brackets, one there and one here, to the frame, so it can go up and down like this. What makes the wheel turn is the sliding axle, which comes from the differential. It has a U-joint over there and it has a U-joint here, so it can allow the motion of the wheel to go up and down. And because as the wheel is going up and down, the length of this axle has to change. That's why it has here, right under this boot, it has splines that allow it to change length. We also have the spring, of course, here, and we have the shock absorber, which is a lever style. So this is the shock here. So this setup is a little bit tricky when it comes to adjustment. If you want to adjust the toe, you have to add or remove shims from under the brackets here. So if you add, for example, more shims between the bracket and the frame over there, the whole trailing arm is going to move this way, and then you're going to change the toe. So that's how you change toe, by adding or removing shims from under there. And if you want to change the camber, you have to replace the whole entire brackets here, because they're not adjustable. So from the factory, there are brackets that are with 3 notches. I don't know if you can see them here, but there are some notches here. Actually, I can show you the ones that I took out from the other side. So you see this one has 1 notch, this one has 3 notches here. So if you look at their profile, they have different height of the hole relative to the mounting holes for the bracket to the frame. So that's how you adjust camber. You change the whole entire bracket to lift this pivoting point up or down. So they're different brackets. I believe there are 3 different brackets from the factory, and depending on the combination that you use, you adjust the camber. However, if you take this to a lineman shop, it's not very easy for them to change the camber. So that's why Richard Good from Good Parts came up with these adjustable brackets. So you can mount these on the frame, and with this adjuster here, you can adjust the height of the pivoting bolt. So that's what we're gonna do today. Regarding the toe, in the last video, we determined that the toe is correct now. We adjusted the other side a little bit. We removed one shim from there. So now we believe that the toe is correct. So that's why whatever shims we remove from here, we're gonna put them back. I don't know how many they are, but we're gonna count them when we take them out, and we're gonna put them back. I don't remember if I mentioned in the last video, but the frame was repaired and it is solid, so we don't need to worry about that. The bolts are actually pretty easy to remove. That's a good thing. So now, in order to change the brackets, we need to remove the whole trailing arm off the car. And to do that, in the first place, we need to remove the sliding axle so it can go up and down. We need to undo the shock from here, and we need to remove the spring. We also need to remove the ebrake cable from here, and here it is attached to the trailing arm, so we need to remove it. This brake line is not original. Somebody has done some repair here. That's not how it's supposed to be, so I'm gonna talk to my friend later, and we will see if he wants me to change this brake line as well. But we don't need to remove the brake line for now, because I'm gonna show you how we're gonna remove the whole entire plate from here with the brakes without taking the brakes apart. So that's a good thing. And once all this is done, we can undo the mounting bolts on the brackets and slide the arm out. There is a trick with this bolt, because you can see the head of the bolt is on this side, and that makes it impossible to slide it out. In the meantime, the bolts that are going through the frame, when you pull them out, they direct the arm towards the fender here, and it's hitting here, so you can't take them out. So it's really tricky to take them out. But when we are installing it back, instead of this direction, we're gonna run the bolt in this direction, even though the instructions for these brackets go for the same thing, to run the bolt on this side. Well, I guess that's very easy when the body is off the car and you're working with chassis only. But now the body is on the frame, and that's impossible. But we're gonna talk about that when we get there. So let me show you how to remove the arm. All right, let's start by removing the sliding axle. And to do that, we need to remove the drum. And normally here, the original screws that hold the drum in place are flathead. I don't know where these came from. These require Allen key to be removed. But it's fine, as long as they hold there and as long as they don't protrude out, they're fine. So now, if the brakes are adjusted well, yeah, this can come out, or if they're adjusted too loose. So now there are 6 bolts here that hold the hub into the trailing arm. Actually, they're studs with nuts, and we're gonna talk about that later again, but I want to highlight this point now. These 6 bolts, when you're tightening them, you have to go only to 14 to 16 foot-pounds. If you over-tighten them, the studs go into the aluminum trailing arm, and it's very easy to strip the threads. That's a weak point here, so only 14 to 16 foot-pounds. So 1/2-inch socket. We have these 2 holes on the flange, so we can reach those bolts or nuts or studs. I'm gonna just loosen them now, and then we're gonna use the screw gun because it's faster. So you can turn it 60 degrees, I guess. Do the other 2. And then another 60 degrees. And do the last 2. Now the hub is free, but first of all we need to do the clamp that holds the boot to the inner axle. I don't know if you see from here. Let me adjust you. Well, I'm not sure if I showed you that, so I'm gonna show it again. I undid the clamp on the boot from the inner axle, not from the outer axle. We want the boot to stay on the outer axle because it's gonna be easier to align the splines later. So that's undone. And now we should be able to pull the outer axle together with the hook, with the hub and the boot out from here. And some people told me before that it's not possible to do that with the brakes assembled. Believe me, it is possible. You just need to move the spring up a little bit here and the one down there. So let me show you. Wow, did I undo all the bolts? I did. There you go. It loosened. So now we have to keep the plate, the brake plate in. You see, now I'm going over the springs. That's why it's taking the brake plate with itself, because it's the springs that got hooked here. So now you can just slide it out like this. Don't lose the clamp, and that can go to the side. So you see the U-joint here. That's what's allowing it to move up and down. And there's another U-joint inside there, but that's another story. So now we can undo the brake, the e-brake from here. Put this pin out. Okay. So the e-brake cable is attached also here to the trailing arm with a 9/16 nut on the inside, so we have to undo that. So we can put the wrench on there on the other side, but if your hand is small enough like mine, you can reach inside and make sure to hit the nut. Okay, start it going. So this is the best moment to do that, because you can put one hand inside, one outside, and undo this nut. There you go. And now the e-brake cable should come out. Now it's stuck there, so with adjustable wrench we got it unstuck. There you go. So now we can take it out of the way, maybe shove it somewhere there. Now the brake line as well has a little clamp over here. I don't know if you see it, but it is attached to the trailing arm, so we need to remove that clamp. There you go. It's removed. Now over there also it is attached as well here, so with 9/16 wrench we can loosen this locking nut here. If the brake line starts turning, then we need to hold it with another wrench, because we don't want to twist the brake line and snap it. Normally it should hold itself here inside this holder or whatever it is, but sometimes it starts spinning. So there you go. So now the brake line is free from the trailing arm. Okay, let's keep it here for now. We're gonna undo the shock, and we're gonna remove the spring, and then we're gonna remove the plate, and we're gonna attach it to the shock arm maybe. We will see. So let me show you how to undo the shock now. So to remove the shock absorber link from the trailing arm and the spring after, I put the jack under the trailing arm. Now in some cases, if your spring is too high, the weight of the car might not be enough and your spring might lift the body as well. In our case though, the spring is soft enough, so it collapsed enough. So now we can see that the shock lever is up from its bumper here. You see, that's enough now that we can undo the nut from underneath and remove the bushing and the big washer, and that's gonna allow us then to drop the trailing arm down. These I believe are 9/16. There are two nuts that are locked to each other here. Now, there you go, there's a big washer and the bushing, the rubber bushing. So now the lever should be able to go up. So now I should be able to drop the the jack down, and that's gonna release the spring tension, and we're gonna be able to remove it, like very slow. There you go. So now the spring is coming out. There's a rubber collar underneath and rubber collar on the top. We don't have new ones, so we're gonna have to save these. We can remove the brake plate and attach it there. Or maybe, yeah, it's long enough. In this case, it's long enough to go down there. So I'm gonna put the jack back under the frame just in case, and then we're gonna start removing these from there. So now you can see the brackets better from here, and the nuts are on the other side of the frame. So let's go under the car and I'll show you. So here and here. It's tricky to undo them on your own because somebody needs to hold on the other side, but I'm alone in the garage, so I'm gonna have to figure it out. Okay, so the nuts are undone from the other side. So now we'll be able to slide at least one side. Here, let's count. Let's see how many shims we have here. Why doesn't this one come out? Yep. One, and then another one, but the other one doesn't want to come out. But there are two, and here we have three. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, actually we have one more. That's important to know, right? There you go. So we have 4 on this side. Is that all? Yeah. 4 on the outside and 2 on the inside. This second one here doesn't want to come out for whatever reason. Okay, it's gonna stay there obviously. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This arm can't come out. It's almost out, but it's not. Okay. Tear it out. And this is our second shim here on this side, which is bent. That's why it doesn't want to come out. So we're gonna straighten it before we put it on. Here, this one is broken, but we have one left over from the other side. So we're gonna replace it. So let's remove these pivoting bolts now, and we're gonna start assembling. Now, if you want to change bushings, now is the time. You can change the bushings on the trailing arm, but we're not going to change ours because it looks like they've been changed when they repaired the frame. So now we're going to turn the arm the way it is going to go on the car. The new brackets go with the adjusters facing each other, which means this way, and the head of the bolt needs to be at the bottom. So we have a nut and the head of the bolt. Here the same, the nut is on top, the head of the bolt is at the bottom. this nut is not going to come out because it is drilled through and there's a pin holding it, so when you spin the bolt, the nut stays where it is. So that's the orientation in which we want them. The adjusters face each other and the bolt heads are at the bottom. Now, as a starting point for the adjustment, the manual goes for the outer bracket needs to be pretty much in the center, which it is, somewhere in the middle. And the inner bracket, they want you to adjust the block for the pivoting bolt to be all the way down. So that's all the way down, but I figured on the other side that when it's all the way down, actually this hole doesn't line up with the slot inside, so it needs to be a little bit up, like very little. Like this. This is the hardware that came with the kit. You have 4 bolts for the attachment to the frame and 2 bolts for the pivots. 1 washer on the bolt when it goes there, because we can't put these bolts later. Once we put them on the arm, we don't have access to these holes. Like that. Okay. Now the pivoting bolt has only 1 washer, so the inner bolt goes from the out in, the outer bolt goes from the out in too. So that's what you can do if you have your body off the frame. However, I explained already why we can't do that on the outer bracket, because the body is in the way. So that's why we're gonna have to slide it in. So we're gonna put the washer on the bolt, we're gonna slide it through. Oops. Of course, it needs to go through the adjuster block, and we're gonna put the nut on the other side. We're gonna leave them loose for now. For the outer bracket though, because of the same reason, we can't put it on the arm and then slide it in. It's gonna be really hard. That's why the outer bracket goes on the frame first, and then when we're putting the arm on the frame, we're gonna make these bolts go through there, but this end of the arm is gonna have to go into the bracket, which is already mounted on the frame. Now here we shouldn't forget our 4 shims. Okay. We're gonna torque them later. They need to be torqued to a certain torque, I don't remember. We'll check the menu. And now for the tricky part, we need to be able now to slide these bolts into the holes there. We also need to put 2 shims, right? Now here, again, we can put the bolt from outside in, so we're gonna put it from the inside out. Okay. And on the outside, we're gonna have to put the washer and the nut. Now, I'm gonna start the nuts on this side, and then we're gonna put the shims in. Okay, the shims are in, so now we can tighten the nut completely. Alright, so the mounting bolts are torqued. They have to be torqued between the torque spec is 28 to 30 foot-pounds, and also the pivoting bolts are torqued now. I torqued them to 50 pounds according to the spec, and now we can begin assembling the suspension. So, of course, the spring goes in there. Make sure that we have the collars, the top and the bottom. Now we're gonna raise it until the spring gets wedged there. Now again we're gonna reconfirm the collars sit nicely. And just put one nut to hold it in place. Okay, I'm gonna point this lever down towards the hole on the trailing arm. And then we're gonna keep going up until the lever goes through the hole. Like that. Now we can put back the bushing, which looks like in a good shape, with the embossed part out, or with the embossed part up. A big washer underneath. The nut, all the way, and then the locking nut from underneath, and then we're gonna put our wrench, the top nut, and we're gonna lock it with the bottom nut. Okay, that's good. And now we can lower the jack, making sure that we're still on the jack stand, because while raising it we could have raised the body as well. Okay, and now the whole tension of the spring is on this lever here. That's why we need to make sure that these nuts don't go anywhere, because if that happens, everything is gonna go flying. Now at this point it's good to put your ebrake cable back into that hole there and do the nut, because if you have the axle through the trailing arm, it's much harder to put the nut. It's not impossible, but it is harder. This way is much easier. Now the axle has a bigger spline here, only one, that helps for the orientation, and of course the inner axle also has the same spline. So I'm gonna make sure this spline is up at 12 o'clock, so it's easy to find it. Doesn't necessarily need to be there. In fact, it doesn't matter where it is, but it's, for me, it's easier to know that it is up, so I can put this one up too. So we're gonna put some grease on the splines, make sure that they slide nice and easy, and now make sure that the clamp is still there on the boot. The big spline is up, and this is a little bit tricky to match it with that spline there, because you need to match the exact angle, but it's doable. So I'm gonna have to just play with the angles and with the spline orientations. Almost there. There you go. Okay, that was tricky. Okay, now we can push the... Oh, I didn't remove this nut that I put here to hold my plate. Okay, now we can push it in all the way. Before we forget, I'm gonna put the clamp back, the boot back on the inner axle, and tighten the clamp. My fingers are skinny, so I can shove them in between there, but you can also put it on the socket and put the socket through the hole and start the nut this way. So I'm gonna drive them very gently, and then we're gonna torque them. Like I said, only 14 to 16 foot-pounds. Okay, so if you want to know how much 16 foot-pounds is, here. We're gonna do it with one finger. There you go. That's how much you need to torque it. Okay, and what's left now? We need to attach the e-brake here and that brake line there. I'm gonna put the wheel on and we're gonna drop the car to see if the camber changed, and we'll talk to my friend about the alignment, because I can do a little bit, but it's gonna be just, I don't know if I can come up with a process to do that at home. I think that needs to be done in a professional garage where they have the equipment, but anyways, we will talk about it later. Alright, so the wheel is on and I rode the car back and forth a little bit so the suspension can settle, and as you can see there's still lots of negative camber on both wheels. So I'm gonna try to adjust it a little bit just by eye, because I don't have a way to adjust camber like we adjusted the toe, but for the camber I'm not that brave to do it in my home garage. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the inner bracket a little bit and I'm gonna drop the outer bracket a little bit. In the instructions it says that 1 turn on the adjuster equals 1/4 degree, I believe. I don't remember well, I need to read the instructions again. So whatever turns I do on the inner bracket, I'm gonna do the same amount in the opposite direction of on the outer bracket. For both wheels, we're gonna do the same adjustment, because it looks to me like the camber is the same on both sides now. Or no, I think there's still more camber on this one. Anyways, I'm gonna adjust it just by eye. It's not gonna be super accurate, but it's gonna be better than what it is right now. And then I'm gonna advise my friend to go to a proper alignment shop, and they're gonna do a proper alignment for him. Now that they have the adjusters there, it's gonna be easy for them. So with that, we're gonna complete this video. I hope that I helped someone who is considering buying those adjustable brackets. So now you know what's involved in replacing them. So time-wise, if you wanna know, it took me 3 hours per side, more or less. And I'm sure that if you have a buddy to help you, it's gonna be much faster, because especially the mounting bolts for the brackets, that was what took me a lot of time, because you need somebody to help you on the other side to hold the wrench. That's it. Even your kid can help you with that. But unfortunately I didn't have anybody here today, so I had to do it myself. So I would consider 6 hours job to replace both sides. And that's in case you don't change anything. Like I didn't change bushings, I didn't change anything. If you have to replace the bushings on the arm and stuff like that, then you're gonna need extra time for that as well. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting and subscribing, thanks for sharing, thanks to all my Patreons and the people who support me financially. That's what they do for me is really appreciated. And if you like my videos and you consider supporting me financially too, you can find the details about my Patreon page in the description below the video. Or if you don't want to become a Patreon, you just want to make a one-time donation, you can do that as well by sending me a PayPal transfer or e-transfer for that matter to my email address, which is elin.yakov@trustybeauties.com. But like I always say, you don't need to support me financially in order to have access to all my videos. They are totally free for everybody, whether they support me financially or not. If you consider supporting me financially, that would be only because you want to say thank you, Elin, for your videos, or you just feel like it. If you don't feel like it, you're still a valuable viewer of this channel. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye. Where did you go? Run away.